Shiny Pokemon have some serious problems. If I'm to be totally honest, there are a lot of disappointment shinies out there. Being realistic, do I really want to spend hours at hand to catch some piece of garbage? Surely by now you'd think Game Freak would have learned to pick better colors for shiny Pokemon. But no, Gen 9 kept the streak going, and if I see any slop in Gen 10, I am going to cry. But without further ado, I present to you better shiny Pokemon. Starting off with Sprigatito, and its evolution line. These shinies aren't quite what I expected, but then again, noting how Pokemon's designed some other shinies, I should have expected it. Nothing much changes in their official shinies apart from a slightly different shade of green, their eyes turning from pink to purple, and Meowscarada's pink flower also turning purple. And when you look at a side-to-side comparison, yeah, you can technically tell the differences, but just faintly. So when I designed a shiny for these Pokemon, I took a different route than what most people expected. I decided to keep the Meowscarada line green, but an actually more distinguishable shade of green. And while some people might criticize this, I do have a valid explanation for this color scheme. I thought it would be cool to make a shiny Sprigatito line that is based off of various cacti and desert plants. I also did experiment with other colors like orange, red, and purple, but I ended up sticking with the green version because I personally think it looks cool and I also like the explanation that goes along with it. Moving on to yet another grass starter Pokemon line I feel like could use revamped shiny forms. Meganium. And I know not many people like Meganium, but I think the concept of a plant dino is pretty cool. All things aside, I think the Meganium line shinies look very disappointing, except for Bayleaf. Not much changes except for the initial shade of light green turned into a lemon yellow green. At least I think that's what you call Meganium's shiny. Anyway, when you observe these from side to side, it still looks very similar, except for Bayleaf. These Pokemon had so much potential in terms of their shiny forms, so I was really disappointed that they looked like garbage. So when I created new shiny forms for the Chikorita evolution line, I decided to turn Meganium's pink hibiscus into a reddish-orange one. I took inspiration from Bayleaf's official shiny, but decided to make the colors a bit more vibrant. I kept the same color palette throughout the evolution line to create unity, and yeah, I really like how these shiny forms turned out, way better than the official shinies, or whatever you call those things. Next up is Kommo-o. I have a lot of mixed feelings about the shinies given to the Kommo-o evolution line. And while there technically is a visible difference, I really dislike the pink scales. It just doesn't look right on such a fierce Pokemon. Plus, just in case you were wondering, Game Freak, you've got a whole color wheel of options to choose from, yet you pick the absolute worst colors for shiny Pokemon. Anyway, I created new shiny forms for these Pokemon. I picked various shades of blue and some green for an accent color. I did experiment with other colors like red, light blue, and sage green, but none of them turned out as good as this one did. Moving on to our next shiny redesign. The Charcadet evolution line is trash. I mean, their shiny forms are trash. I remember seeing Ceruledge and Armorogue for the first time, and I was generally impressed by how cool their designs looked, only to be disappointed by how bad their shiny forms looked. And I know I'm not the only one who thinks they're absolute garbage. The only thing that changes in their shiny forms are their eye colors. That's literally it. There is no need to do a side-to-side comparison because they are literally the exact same thing. Well, I mean, there are some differences. One difference. I've seen a lot of people online swapping the Ceruledge and Armorogue color schemes, but I took a different route when it came to picking colors for their shinies. I decided to give Ceruledge bluish-green flames, similar to blue flames in real life. I gave its armor a light blue color to complement its flames, and I really like how it turned out. In terms of Armorogue, I wanted it to look like magma, or terracotta. As for Charcadet, I wanted its color scheme to look like a mix of Armorogue and Ceruledge's shiny palette. So, I gave Charcadet a yellowish-green color scheme, which is kind of a middle ground between Ceruledge's blue-green and Armorogue's clay-orange. I made Charcadet's flame a mix of yellow, orange, and red. Moving on to Leafeon, which is yet another Pokemon in dire need of a new shiny. Leafeon's initial shiny is a barely noticeable different shade of green and a slightly, and I mean slightly, different shade of tan. When you compare these Leafeon forms side by side, you can barely notice a difference. My version of shiny Leafeon, you'll find, is quite different than its official shiny. I made Leafeon look like fall leaves by changing its green to orange and red. This has to be one of my favorite shinies I've made yet, apart from some of the other shinies later in the video. And if you'd like me to give all of the evolutions some new shiny forms, let me know down in the comments. The next Pokemon in need of a better shiny is Gengar. Gengar is an OG Pokemon, and you could argue that it is a lot of people's favorite Pokemon. However, its shiny is just a big letdown. At least its shiny looks good when it's a Mega. The shiny Gengar line has very minimal changes. Ghastly turns into a somewhat noticeable shade of dark magenta, Haunter's tongue turns purple, which you don't even notice half the time, and Gengar is literally just copy and paste. If someone showed me a picture of shiny Gengar by itself, I would think that it's the regular Gengar, not the shiny one. My version of the shiny Gengar line turns the purple into various shades of spectral and ghostly blue, fit for these ghost-type Pokemon. And yes, I did experiment with other colors and various shades of gray, but those looked too plain, so I ended up sticking with the blue. Moving on to my favorite Pokemon, Dragonite. I love this Pokemon so much, but I'm not really a big fan of its shiny form. It goes from its nice golden color scheme to a very weird shade of green. Not to mention, it doesn't even match the color scheme of Dragonair and Dratini. Well, I guess even in Dragonite's regular form, it still doesn't match. All things aside, you had a whole color wheel to pick from, and we ended up with this. My version of the shiny Dratini line has Dratini and Dragonair swapping their color schemes with Dragonite, which makes Dragonite look really cool, but also makes Dratini and Dragonair look gorgeous. Finally, we have Garchomp, which is a huge disappointment, especially when you look at its pre-evos. Gible has an okay shiny, and Gabites is really cool, but when it came to shiny Garchomp, Pokemon just got lazy again. How frustrating. I mean, come on, is it really that hard to give Garchomp Gabite's color palette? All that being said, congrats on making it to the end of the video. Yeah, that's about it.